Welcome back to Estate Agency Mastery Season 4. We're at the end of the season now. Don't know what episode we're on, but it doesn't matter. What does matter is I've got Vic in. Vic, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me over.
I know you've prepped loads for today. No, I'm joking, right? We're going to keep this very much off the cuff. This series is all about mental health, right? And I could speak to Vic about all of his years' experience as an agent, or you've flipped properties and all of that, but none of that matters today as much as how you continue to push yourself, be a great agent, be a great father, and essentially protect that mental wellness, right? So whilst all the other stuff is important, all I wanted to do is in the next 15, 20, 25 minutes is whether you're an agent listening in Birmingham, Belfast, Bognor Regis, that's the tagline, find out things that you do to specifically protect your mental health, but allow you to achieve at the rate you do. No pressure.
Okay.
So where does your head go straight away, Vic?
It's a difficult one. So mental health is one of those topics I feel like you could sit here and talk all day long about it, but actually as men, I don't think we do.
It's so true. But 10 years ago, we couldn't sit here and talk about it. Maybe it's 20 years ago, you couldn't sit and talk about it.
Man up.
Man up, pull your socks up.
Yeah, exactly, that sort of thing. But even though we are sitting here talking about it now, I've got to say this is probably the first time I've ever had a conversation about it, sort of in depth, if that makes sense. You might occasionally mention, I just want to do things a bit different and so on, but we tend to avoid that kind of that term mental health because it's kind of seen as you're just meant to be fine, you're meant to be okay. In terms of things I've done to sort of protect that mental health, that mental space, it's interesting. You hear a lot of people say, I have to go to the gym 3 times a week, I have to go running, I have to do this, and that helps me.
You literally just listen, you've done the last podcast.
Oh, I've never heard it yet. But yeah, so you hear a lot of that. And I was thinking about this before I came here today and thought, actually, I feel like those things are good, but all they do is kind of firefight and maintain, if that makes sense. For me, I'd say last year was quite a pivotal year. You know a fair bit about my sort of career so far and what changed last year. And I turned 40 last year. I think I looked at my life and thought there's certain things I want to change. And that, I guess it is an assessment of your mental health, personal well-being, assessing where you're at. And rather than changing, I'm going to go to the gym more, I'm going to reserve more time for this, I actually went the other way. I looked at what causes me stress and what I don't like in my life. I just hit the reset button, just pulled away from what I was doing work-wise, changed a few things on a personal basis, and I wanted to have more time for family, which I've always made time for family, but sometimes that's not compatible with work, if that makes sense.
Well, if I jump in there, right, and I don't want to make this all about TA UK, whatever, but you essentially had a high street office with another business, and the first thing for me is that means you've got to be in the office the whole time, right?
Yeah.
And one of the best things about agency, the way I see it going in the UK, is you can choose to work 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, but then you can be there for every single sports day. You can be there for just going, I can't be asked to work tomorrow. I am going to go to the gym or whatever and what have you. So so since you made that decision to shut the high street business and become a business owner with TA UK, again, all brokerage are amazing, brokerage agnostic podcast. What's the biggest shift that's happened to you in terms of your wellness?
It's hard to sort of put down one or two as such. I would just say overall there is a removal of pressure. So under the high street model, you need to be in at 9. If you're lucky, you're finishing it, and you're probably slightly slacking because you need to do more in the high street. You're trying to get out at 5:30. It's difficult. Under this model, it all goes out the window. Between 9 a.m. and midday, I probably do the least amount of work. And I'm probably doing phone calls, not because I have to do them this time, but I'm often doing phone calls with clients between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m.
When they're available.
When they're available. Yeah. Also, when's good in terms of, like, I do the school run every day. I did that when I was a high street agent as well. But equally in the morning, it could be that you need to just chill out, deal with a bit of admin work, maybe go to the gym, whatever you want to do. It just gives flexibility, is what I would say. And that, I think, helps with mental well-being more than having a high pressure job. I'm going to go to the gym twice a week, I'm going to do this, all those generic things you hear people do, because I think the source of the problem is still there and you're just maintaining it.
Do you know what? I do agree with that, and I think the ability to choose, I've always argued that estate agencies be shut between 9 and 5 and open between 5 and 9 the next morning. And people go, well, that's just silly. Yeah, but most clients want to speak to you in the evening. The last thing they want to do is get a call from Vic on sales chasing at 2 p.m. when they're about to go into a Teams meeting or whatever else. So that makes sense. So what about on I want to get deeper, personal level then? What, when you were planning this or when you were on the train on the way in, what was it you were thinking that you wanted to discuss today that you'll kick yourself if our listeners don't get to hear?
Oh, I don't know. I wasn't thinking of anything, to be honest with you. I came here completely open-minded. I was hoping you were going to lead the way.
One of the things, Vic, that the other guests have mentioned today when we've been filming is your phone being your best friend. How we do all of our business, how we do all of our dough, but your worst enemy, because you can get glued to it and go on an Instagram, WhatsApp spiral. Yeah. How do you deal with that? Are you good? Are you bad? Should you improve?
So I've run my own business since I was 19 years old, and I've always, my phone has always been kind of attached to my side, even before it was not as fashionable to, but even before it was common to, my phone was always with me, because every time I saw a phone call coming up when I started my own letting agency at 19, every phone call was potentially worth £750 is the way I looked at it. So it had a value that in your head was just kind of, you've got to be on it. And I would say probably started around about 2 years ago, I started leaving my work phone to one side, if that makes sense. Before they were both with me non-stop. Yeah. And now I try when I can to put both phones to one side. And again, you can go back to it if you want to, once the kids are asleep, once you've done whatever you want to do, because generally speaking, there's not many emergencies at 6 p.m. in our business, are there? Let's be honest. And if there are, it's because you made a cock up somewhere. But there's generally not stuff that can't be dealt with in a couple of hours' time. So I'd say, I'm not great in terms of putting my phone down, but there are times where, for example, when we're eating dinner, I used to always have it on me or be on the side, and it's just stupid. There's no need to do that. Yeah. Keep it slightly away from you. If it buzzes, yes. If it keeps buzzing, then see who's phoning you, because it might be an emergency. But I think you've got to protect that space with your kids. And I think as well, my daughter, who's now about to turn 11, she recently got her first phone because she's going to secondary school. And now you've got that period where you look at it and think, she's going to learn from you. So if you are on the phone constantly, then she's going to think that's normal. Yeah. Same as if you're driving your car too fast constantly. Well, when she starts learning to drive, she's going to do that because it's just normal and acceptable. I've been in the car with you, so I know that feels like. So interestingly, right? So I have an app which, if I try and go on to certain things like socials, it will block it for 10 seconds, make me do a breathing exercise, and then it allows me to go on. Yeah. Do you limit your daughter's screen time? And do you think you should limit your own screen time? We do. We don't have a formal way of limiting our daughter's screen time, but we do. And to be honest, it's really interesting because she had an iPad for the last couple of years. When she got a phone, it wasn't like when we got phones as kids. It was like the best thing. They could do nothing. You had like Snake on there, and you could send a 160 character message. But it was kind of not a big deal in the same way because everything's on her iPad pretty much is on the phone. So she was actually putting it down way more than we would do, if that makes sense. It's so interesting. So we haven't actually needed to, but yes, at the same time, there's been one or two scenarios where we've been out and she might be using it, and friends who are her age are using their phones as well. My wife Karen, she said to her recently, why do you all need to be on your phone? You're all with each other in a setting together. There's no need. So I think that's the way to limiting myself screen time wise. The iPhone gives you a notification, doesn't it, every week saying what your screen time is. I used to look at that and I used to be shocked by how much screen time there was. If I'm honest, I stopped looking at it for the last year or so. So I don't know. But it would. I think you've got to find ways of limiting it. You raised two really good points there, and the first one I've not even thought about. I am subconsciously teaching my 3 and 6 year old daughter sometimes that the phone is more important than anything else, including them, just because I'll quickly go on it during bath time if they're just playing around. And so I'm literally self-discovering here, there's a bit of work I need to do because of the message I'm giving without meaning to. The second thing you touched upon is I turned 40 as well, right? And I think it's really easy to condition yourself through us being 40, because my view is I don't think anyone should go on their phone for the first half hour of the day. I really don't, because your thought, if you have a really good text or a really bad text, that sets your subconscious thoughts and unconscious thoughts, for the rest of the day. But I also think
if you're 19 and you're setting up a lettings business, you should be taking the calls the whole time, because you're growing your future.
Yeah, 100%.
And, you know, throughout your 20s, that is when the work ethic, especially if you look at the 20-year-olds today, our podcast videographer not included, if you're in your 20s, the work ethic is awful. Absolutely awful. Oh, I want a day off of this, or I don't want to work past this. Where you and I growing up, we would graft, right? At the weekends. And so I think my kind of bit on this is, if you're watching this or listening to this and you're a younger viewer, you still need the time off. You still need to be away from your phone. You still need to be present when eating with your loved ones or your family. You still need to go and do a bit of sport. But my gosh, actually, your phone is your best friend in that regard, because your 20s are when you form the habits and you can make a really big impact on the rest of your life. Once you start collecting things like wives, children, mortgages, businesses, investments, watches, whatever, then that's when you've already laid the foundations, if that makes sense. So I'd argue your phone is your best friend, even more so because you have to prove yourself. At 19 or 20, when I set my first business up, I was 23, first agency 25, 26 maybe. You have to go above and beyond to prove to the clients that, you know, you are worth it.
You're making your name, aren't you?
That's exactly what you're doing. So I think it's at our point in life, we almost need to do less FaceTime, but because of the reputation, we'll do bigger deals, if that makes sense. So that's interesting. So talk to me. So at the start of the podcast, you said, I don't try and go to the gym too much, but I always know you go to the gym a lot, right? You're in good nick and you're in muscle work. So
I'm in twice a week.
Is that all you're in?
Twice a week, yeah.
That's interesting. You must do a good set.
must be, or wear good clothes maybe. I don't know, clothes that fit right maybe. But yeah, so I just go twice a week. Yeah,
twice a week.
I'd like to do 4 times, to be honest. I would love to be able to do that, but it's just making time amongst family and work and so on.
Could you? Can I challenge you? Could you do 4 times?
Oh, I could, but then there would be other sacrifices you make time-wise. Like my kids are still a bit slightly older, or same and slightly older than yours.
Yeah.
They still need your time at that sort of time. And there's just stuff to do sort of at home as well.
What about working out with? I've been thinking they're just a bit young, but I could actually start working out with the girls.
So there is a gym down the road from me. You know the one Hitio, I think it's called, where you apparently can take kids there as well, and it's a lot of your kind of thing, like sled. Is it sled pulls or pushes?
Yeah.
Sled pushes, that sort of stuff. In the Nugent Retail Park, there is something there where apparently you can take kids, but I'm trying to get them to do press-ups at the moment. I said over the summer holidays, I said I want you to be able to do 10 press-ups properly in a row, and
nose to ground.
It has to be nose to ground. Yeah. But
you've got daughters, so on knees or no proper?
So I think they can do it without doing it on the knees first. They're not completely flat at this point, but that's only starting now.
Yeah.
But about a year or so, I started doing it again at home, like regularly, and they were sitting on my back at the same time doing it. So I make sure that they get punished basically, but I think it's a great discipline, and it's such easy exercise to do at home as well.
It's so good, and it's showing them what they can. We do. We've got pull-up bars we use for hanging and all sorts of stuff. So
kids don't get out. Like when we were younger, you were always out. Now screen time is trying to change things.
I bought a game last week where it's conversation cards. So when I'm with my children and my ex, Lily can ask us conversations about what life was like growing up, or find out a little bit more about us. And it's crazy, the questions. But when I say to Lily that at her age I'd be cycling around the roads by myself, and there was only 3 or 4 TV channels, and you couldn't choose what was on TV. And
you were in Birmingham, there were probably only 2 in that.
You couldn't. There were no mobile phones. Phones were plugged into the wall, and you had to do a spinny thing, and they just don't get it. They don't. But yeah, I think that's the big one for me as I'm going through this, is how do I start working out with my daughters and training them on the work ethic, but it also means I get it in the bag anyway, if that makes sense. Yeah. That's what we'll start
Press
doing.
ups.
Is the one. It's a good job to get my headphones in.
Exactly.
All right, last one from me. If you were to have a conversation with yourself and be your own coach regarding your well-being, what are a couple of things you're not doing that you know? Because you mentioned the precursor to this question is when you hit 40, you're like, right, I want to move away from this. But I did the same, and there's a couple of things I haven't quite done or achieved that I need to go back to the drawing board on. What are 1, 2, 3, you pick things that if Vic was coaching Vic, you would make yourself go and do that you're not quite there yet on?
That's really, really hard, because it's hard to be your own, to identify your own faults, isn't it, effectively, or not even necessarily faults, but things you want to change. The
last guest we had, Nelly Singers, was talking about, and the reason this question's come up is being your best own worst critic.
Yeah.
And it is hard, but the reason I'm asking you now on the podcast is, when do you ever get asked those questions, right?
Don't really, to be fair.
So go on then, what we got?
So on a business level, I would say something you've been badgering me about for a while now is prospecting for new clients. And
because you grafted so hard in your 20s on your phone, you now have the reputation where it comes to you more so than not.
They do, yeah, it's interesting. So clients, I don't want to say they fall on my lap as it were, but I do just regularly get calls from people who know what I do, and they hopefully know that I'm good at it or think that I'm good at it. But basically I do get calls regularly from people, so I don't have to go and knock on doors in an area where I've never worked before or I'm trying to build a business in. But I do look at it and see the successes that guys who've joined us as cold starters, and I look at it and think, wow, they got like 3 listings just from knocking on doors, which I say just from knocking on doors, there is an element of it which you've got to be resilient and be willing to be sort of kicked, as it were, not physically kicked, but be kicked back at the door and been told, stop wasting my time. But I look at that and I do think it must be great to go out and do that, knock on 50 doors and then get 3 listings. You've suddenly got 20, 30 grand's worth of revenue coming in just through. So that's what I need to do. And so that's number one on the business side.
Okay, let me even challenge you more, right? Because you've gone straight for business side rather than the wellness side. But I think most agents, and I'm not saying you do, but have a psychological barrier about, you mentioned being kicked and that mental bit of, am I lowering my status by, or am I going back to being a double glazing salesman in the 80s and limiting beliefs that creep in? Why is it you think you haven't done it, other than the fact that they drop into your lap? I know we didn't want to use that terminology, but what's the mental barrier for you doing it?
Do you know what? I actually think it's time. So because I have already existing business coming through, I've got my lettings work as well on top of that, which obviously comes through. I think it's actually having time. Like if I was sat there 30 days of the month, and when you start a business, you're talking about how the young generation haven't got the work ethic. I'm not getting into that. I'm not trying to bash people who are 20 years old, but when I was,
by the way, I'm awful.
When I was, you'd love to be 20 years old again.
Would, yeah.
When
I work harder than all of them. Mate.
When I was 19, 20 years old setting up, I effectively had 30 days of the month free to work. Not 5 days a week, it was 30 days because you're free. And I do look at it sometimes and think it would be nice to have no business in front of me right now. And truly, I use that term, hit the reset button is what I wanted to do. Actually, then you're fully hitting the reset button where you're going out and you're starting from absolutely nothing. So time's, I think, part of it. I feel like with that door knocking, if I just dedicate, maybe I should do that, dedicate 3 days to it where literally all I do is that, and I just get beaten at the door many times, but after 3 days you're going to get some. I believe I would get something on for sure.
So 2 things. Everyone that's come on the podcast today for the last 2 or 3 episodes has been set a challenge that they are taking away. It's down to you. Would not this week but next, can you commit, and would you want it to be, you might not want it to be, but could you commit 3 days to 25 doors a day? 25
doors a day, 3 days, why not?
Nice.
I mean, I can't say no, really.
No, you can. Right, we've got accountability there. Fine. Last one for me then. What you went straight to business, but again, Vicky's coaching Vic here from a mental health, well-being, personal, being on your phone too much, not being present in the just something else you would coach yourself to say that is what I need to go and do.
So in terms of more on a personal level, I mean, should ask my daughter really. I would say I'd like to think that I do as much as I can and need to in terms of on a family level, which probably holds me back in certain ways business-wise as well, because I do make that, and I've made that choice for a number of years. Like I said, I do the school run in every day, do pickups from school once or twice a week, and just when I'm needed to be there as such. I like what you said about the phone, not touching the phone for the first half hour. So when I go to bed at night, the phone is next to me, and when I wake up in the morning, it's the first thing I pick. After I've, once I've kind of got fully woken up, I'll get up, go to the bathroom, I'll take that with me. And actually, maybe I'll leave it downstairs, to be fair, because as I said earlier, there's not really many emergencies in what we do, so there's really no need to do that.
I've got a friend up in the Midlands, and he said the best decision he's ever made in his life was he charges his phone in the kitchen downstairs.
Yeah.
So he doesn't wake up and aimlessly scroll if he's, I mean, in what world, pre the last 20 years, when you wake up because you can't sleep, do you expose yourself to a little box of light and trigger your brain? You would become more mindful, you sit with your thoughts, we're having that take us away from us by being plugged into the matrix, if you like, and just having it there.
Yeah, I used to do that a lot. If I couldn't sleep, pick up my phone and have a look at it, and you think in your head, you convince yourself, I'm going to tire myself out, it's keeping me busy. It's not true. I think it's terrible for you. I just think everything we do, not just business-wise, even like say like Whoop Band, for example, there's an app on your phone. There's no screen on here, which is a good thing, to be fair, on the screen, but that's on your phone. And again, you want to check in this, check in that. So I think you have to look, like you said, put that physical barrier of it's downstairs, and you're not going to really get to it for at least 15, 20 minutes probably before waking up. So I think that's pretty a good shout. So I think I'll try that on a personal level.
Try that one.
Yes.
And then very lastly, the Whoop Band.
Yes.
I'm all for sleep tech, wearable tech. I've got an Oura Ring, Apple Watch, a bed that changes temperature based on your sleep cycle. I'm a real geek on it. Why do you wear the Whoop?
So I had I've told you about before, the heart issue that I had. Like December 2024, I went into something called atrial fibrillation, which basically meant my heart rhythm just was, you'd be sitting here now, and rather than it being 60 BPM, it would be 60, then immediately 75, then 90, then back to 70. It was never getting to 60, actually, it was always elevated. So it just made me think about a lot of stuff. But I was exercising then twice a week as well, same sort of thing as I do now. But it's taught me about sleep discipline when you're sleeping, in terms of trying to go sleep at the same time every day, getting up at the same time every day, which I've got better at, because now you can see it, you can actually think about it. So the England game was on at 2 a.m. recently. My eldest daughter and my wife both wanted to watch it. I said, do not wake me up. I'm not waking up for it. I thought we were going to lose. We didn't. But I said, don't wake me up. So I went to bed at about 11:30. And they'd gone to bed about 9 and were going to wake up for it. And I messaged them, by the way, the game's been delayed by an hour by the looks of it. So, but please do not wake me up. And luckily it didn't. And I had a great sleep. But when you see that stuff on your phone, you realise if you can't see it, you can't do anything about it. So that's why I use Whoop.
And sleep is the most underutilized, understood performance enhancing drug, right? As males going into our 40s, our testosterone levels are dropping. Nailing your circadian rhythm and nailing your sleep is the number one thing you can do to protect that.
I can believe that.
But we don't see it. And when I look at this mental health journey, wellness journey, whatever, it's interesting that you've touched on sleep at the very end, because I don't think anyone else has. And it is so important. It's almost everything.
There was a time, I'm trying to think, it was when I was taking Anya to school, it must have been 2019, I think. In 2019 or 2020, it was lockdown then, maybe 2021. I remember driving to work, and on the way to work, I was yawning. And I was like, what is wrong with me? I think it must have been 2021. So we had two young kids at that point, and I think it was sleep. I used to just think, it's fine. I can go to sleep at 1 a.m. It's not a problem. Wake up at 6, which I've always pretty much done for many, many years now. Now I try to get to in bed by 11, and I'd up for sleep at 11:30. So I get about 6.5 hours. But consistency, even if you can't get the 8 hours that you're meant to get, consistency, that rhythm, that seems to be key. So that's why I'm a big, big fan of Whoop. But when that heart thing happened, I just started to think about loads of other stuff. And that's the same time I came away from the high street as well. So I think it just made me think about a lot of things, and personal review of life, basically.
So my take from this podcast is leave the high street and come and join a brokerage, preferably TA UK.
And sleep properly.
Like we've both had a 40-year-old midlife crisis where we started to look at priorities. But the biggest thing I think you should give yourself credit for that maybe you haven't realised is it's, for me, the clearest thing is you've set yourself up in earlier life so that you can enjoy being fully present as a father, which is probably why you'd never seem stressed, and you can have that home life because the graft you did put in earlier, so that now, you know, business is fun, but you don't have that cortisol that maybe agents, when they come into this from scratch, have. And
Yeah,
that's, you know, hats off for you for doing that. Long may it continue.
Thank you.
Thank you.